Hi everyone, welcome again to the series of lectures on property and land laws. Our topic for today is nuisance. So what is a nuisance? Article 694 of the Civil Code defines a nuisance as any act, commission, establishment, business, condition of property, or anything that injures or endangers the health or safety of others, shocks, defiles, or disregards decency or immorality, obstructs or interferes with the free passage of any public highway or street or any body of water, or hinders or impairs the use of property. Okay, so when we speak of nuisance, we speak not only of an act but also of an commission. It may be an establishment, it may be a business, it may be a condition of property, okay, that injures health or endangers health or safety. Okay, such as, for example, a mad dog on the loose. Okay, it is something which endangers the safety of people, shocks, defies, or disregards decency or immorality. It is something which offends decency or immorality, or obstructs with the free passage of any highway, street, or any body of water, or hinders the use of property. Nuisance is derived from the French word nuire, which means to injure, hurt, or harm. It is a limitation or restriction on the rights of ownership. It applies to anything that causes injury, harm, prejudice, whether intentional or through negligence. Nuisance may either be public or private. Public nuisance or nuisance per se, private nuisance or nuisance per accidents. A public nuisance affects a community or neighborhood or a considerable number of persons. So, plurality of the persons affected, although the extent of the annoyance, danger, or damage may be unequal. So it may cause more prejudice to some people and lesser prejudice to other people. A private nuisance is one that is not included in the foregoing definition. So if it affects only a limited number or a few individuals, then it may be considered as a private nuisance or a nuisance for accidents. Public nuisance affects the public or a considerable number of persons, while private nuisance affects only an individual or a limited number of people. Public nuisance is indictable, while private nuisance is actionable for abatement or damages or both. There is also the so-called mixed nuisance. Mixed in the sense that it partakes of both a public and a private nuisance. Okay? It is public in the sense that uh, a number or considerable number of persons are affected. It is also considered as private because it causes special injury to certain limited number of people. Now, we discuss the different kinds of nuisance. Okay, nuisance per se is an act, occupation, or structure which unquestionably is a nuisance under any circumstances, regardless of location or surroundings. It is by itself a nuisance because of its inherent qualities, productive of injury or dangerous to life or property without regard to circumstance. So regardless of location, circumstance, time, or place, it is a nuisance. Okay. Nuisance per accidents, on the other hand, is an act, occupation, or structure, not a nuisance per se, but which may become a nuisance by reason of circumstances, location, or surroundings. So it is in other words, a relative nuisance. It is a nuisance because of its circumstance, location, or surroundings. On the other hand, nuisance per se, as the word per se implies, regardless of location, circumstance, or surroundings, it is an absolute nuisance. In case of nuisance per se, the thing becomes a nuisance as a matter of law. It affects the immediate safety of persons and may be summarily abated by reason of necessity. Whether a thing is a nuisance per accidents depend upon its location or surroundings. The manner of its conduct and proof of the act and its consequences is necessary. Whether it is a nuisance or not is a question of fact that must be proved. It cannot be summarily abated unless the competent court declares the same as a nuisance. On the other hand, we have the doctrine of attractive nuisance. Under the doctrine of attractive nuisance, one who maintains on his premises dangerous instrumentalities or appliances of a character likely to attract children in play, and who fails to exercise ordinary care to prevent children from playing therewith is liable to a child who is injured even if the child is a trespasser in the premises. So attractiveness is an implied invitation to children. However, the attractive nuisance doctrine is not applicable to bodies of water such as a swimming pool or a pond. What are the remedies against nuisance per se or public nuisance? The remedies against a public nuisance are, there are actually three remedies. Prosecution, criminal prosecution, under the revised penal code or any local ordinance, civil action for abatement, and abatement without judicial proceedings. The district health officer shall take care that one or all of the remedies against public nuisance are available. So the power to choose which method is the best, it belongs to the district health officer, whether it is a criminal action, civil action, or abatement without judicial proceedings. The district health officer shall determine whether or not abatement without judicial proceedings is the best remedy. If a civil action is brought by reason of a public nuisance, such action shall be commenced by the city or municipal mayor. A private person may file an action on account of a public nuisance if it is specially injurious to himself. So, with respect to a public nuisance, okay, as a general rule, civil action is commenced by the mayor. However, if a private individual suffers a special injury by reason of a public nuisance, they may also commence the civil action. Any private person may abate a public nuisance which is specially injurious to himself by removing it, or if necessary, by destroying the thing which constitutes the same without committing breach of the peace or doing unnecessary injury. But it is necessary that a demand must first be made to the owner or possessor of the property. Such demand was rejected, and that the abatement must be approved by the district health officer with the assistance of the local police, and that the value of the property to be abated is not more than 3,000 pesos. This is for extrajudicial abatement. So if a private person suffers a special injury by reason of a nuisance per se, he may abate it. However, there are certain rules that must be followed. Okay? First, there must be a demand to the owner to abate, and it is rejected. And then it must be approved by the district health officer with the assistance of the local police, and that the nuisance must not exceed 3,000 pesos. The discretion of whether or not to file a civil action for abatement or to summarily abate a nuisance extrajudicially lies in the hands of the district health officer, because he is the one equipped with knowledge as to the best remedy to abate the nuisance. However, the civil action must be brought by the mayor or in certain circumstances by a private individual who suffers a special injury by reason of the nuisance. Okay? Again, we have already discussed the requisites for extrajudicial abatement. The extrajudicial abatement may be done, okay, by a private person if he suffers a special injury by reason of the nuisance. The notice may be dispensed if the danger to life, health, or property is so imminent. Like, for example, a mad dog on the loose. Okay, so in such cases, notice to the owner and rejection of the same may be dispensed. Okay, how about a private nuisance or a nuisance for accidents? What are the remedies against private nuisances? The remedies against a private nuisance are a civil action or an abatement without judicial proceedings. So a criminal action is not a remedy to abate a private nuisance. Okay, so you choose either extrajudicial abatement or a civil action. Any person injured by a private nuisance may abate it by removing or if necessary by destroying the thing which constitutes the nuisance without committing a breach of the peace or doing any unnecessary injury. However, it is indispensable that the procedure for extrajudicial abatement of a public nuisance by a private person be followed. Okay, so whether it is a public nuisance or a private nuisance that is being abated, there is a requirement of notice to the owner, rejection of the request, uh, and the amount of the nuisance must not exceed 3,000 pesos. Okay? A private person or a public official extrajudicially abating a nuisance shall be liable for damages if he causes unnecessary injury, if the alleged nuisance is later declared by the court to be not a real nuisance, and criminal prosecution is not an available remedy for private nuisance. The liability for damages serves to deter resort to inflicting excessive injuries, as well as to give the owner relief in case the court later on determines that the thing abated was not a private nuisance. So there are two instances or cases when the person who abated the nuisance may be held liable for damages. First is if he causes unnecessary injury, and if later on the alleged nuisance is later on determined by the court as not a real nuisance. Now, let us now go to the characteristics of a nuisance. Article 696 tells us that every successive owner or possessor of a property who fails or refuses to abate a nuisance started by the former owner is liable for damages in the same manner as the one who created it. So the continuity of the nuisance from one owner or possessor to another. Okay? Due to the continuing threat of injury caused by a nuisance, the liability lies not only with the original owner or possessor, but also with the present owner, provided that he has knowledge of the same and it is within his power to abate it. Okay, Article 697 tells us that the abatement of a nuisance does not preclude the right of any person injured to recover damages for its past existence. Remember that a nuisance creates injury or prejudice to people and therefore entitles them to recover damages. So the remedies of abatement and damages may be availed of concurrently. Okay? And also Article 698 tells us that the lapse of time cannot legalize a nuisance, whether public or private. So the right to bring an action to abate a nuisance does not prescribe, because no right can arise from acts or omissions which are against the law or which infringe upon the rights of others. Okay, we now go to the case of Binyan versus Holiday Hill Stock and Breeding Farm. The Binyan Municipal Council passed a municipal ordinance number 6 regulating the use of urban control zones and gradually phasing out large piggeries and other livestock farms located within Binyan. Now, Holiday Hills filed a petition for certiorari challenging the validity of the municipal ordinance. Now, the municipality of Binyan argued that Holiday Hills hot farms, which are located near residential subdivisions, constitute a public nuisance that may be abated. On the other hand, Holiday Hills contended that their business can only be considered as a nuisance per accidents. The Supreme Court said that what sets a nuisance per se apart from one per accidents is its characteristic of menace to public health or safety. To constitute a nuisance per se, the obstruction must hinder the public use of streets, highways, or sidewalks, where the interference with the safety or property of a person must be immediate. In other words, the perceived danger that the act, omission, establishment, business, or condition of property poses must be the type that presents an emergency. To the mind of the court, no less than these types of situations call for the law of necessity. In this case, respondents' hog farms must be considered as a nuisance per se. The fact that they emit an unfavorable stench immediately interferes with the safety of the residents of Binyan. A nuisance, when it affects the immediate safety of persons, may be summarily abated under the law of necessity. Being a nuisance per se, the municipal ordinance, the validity of the municipal ordinance was sustained. Okay, we now move to the case of Ombudsman versus Duterte. So the controversy in this case originated from a canal cover project. Okay, so it was a project that is aimed to secure the residents and children from any untoward accident, prevent disposal of garbage, and the clogging of canals. Okay. Because of the concrete flooring on the top of the drainage canal, uh, the silt and the garbage could not be dredged, impeding the flow of water. So that's whenever it rains, the streets would be submerged in water. Now, the city legal officers of Davao issued a legal opinion that the canal cover project was a public nuisance that obstructed the free passage of water and therefore should be summarily abated. Okay. Now, the issue is whether or not the canal cover project was a nuisance per se that can be summarily abated. Okay. So in this case, the Supreme Court said both the Ombudsman and the CA concluded that the canal cover project was not a nuisance per se, since it did not affect the immediate safety of persons and property as an open canal would. While the local government of Davao may have the power to declare and abate nuisances within their territory, it cannot unilaterally state as a fact that the canal cover project is a nuisance that must be abated if it is not a nuisance per se. It is clear that municipal councils have the power to declare and abate nuisances, but it is equally clear that they do not have the power to find as a fact that a particular thing is a nuisance when such thing is not a nuisance per se. Okay? We now move to the case of Cruz versus Pandacan Hikers Club. So in this case, Cruz is the punong barangay of a certain barangay in the city of Manila. Okay. Now, while the respondents, member of the respondents club was playing basketball, okay, he was probably annoyed. So he gave an order for the barangay Tano to destroy the basketball ring by cutting it up with a hacksaw, rendering it unusable. So the destruction, according to the punong barangay, Cruz, was in response to the clamor of residents to stop the basketball games because it annoys and creates unnecessary noise within the barangay. So is the basketball ring a nuisance per se that can be summarily abated? Okay. None of the tribunals below made a finding that the basketball ring was a nuisance per se that is susceptible to summary abatement. And based on what appears in the records, it can be held at most as a mere nuisance per accidents, for it does not pose an immediate effect upon the safety of persons and property. It is unlike a mad dog on the loose, which may be killed on sight because of the immediate danger it poses to the safety and lives of the people. Nor is it like pornographic materials, contaminated meat, and narcotic drugs, which are inherently pernicious and which may be summarily destroyed. Nor is it similar to a filthy restaurant, which may be summarily padlocked in the interest of public health. A basketball ring by itself poses no immediate harm or danger to anyone, but is merely an object of recreation. Neither is it by its nature injurious to rights of property, of health, or of comfort of the community. But even assuming, for the sake of argument, that the basketball ring is a nuisance per se, the destruction or abatement performed by petitioners failed to observe the proper procedure for such an action, which puts the said act into legal question. Okay, the abatement must be approved by the district health officer. In this case, the punong barangay did not ask for the approval of extrajudicial abatement. He did not ask approval from the local health officer. Okay, the chief executive or the punong barangay is not the authorized official who can determine the propriety of summary abatement. The complete destruction of the basketball ring by the petitioners is justified neither by law or ordinance nor even by equity or necessity, which makes the act illegal and the petitioners liable. Okay, we now move to the case of Rana versus Wong. Wong and Ong are co-owners of a residential land. Now, across their property, Okay, we have the adjacent lots of Uy and Rana. So the said lots follow a rolling terrain with the Rana property standing about 2 meters higher than and overlooking the Uy property, while the Wong and Ong property is at the same level with the road. Rana elevated and cemented a portion of the road that runs between Rana and Wong and Ong in order to level the portion with their gate. Spouses Rana likewise backfilled a portion of the perimeter fence separating the Rana and Uy properties without erecting a retaining wall that would hold the weight of the added filling materials. Now, Wong et al. Filed a complaint for abatement of nuisance with damages against Rana on the ground that it affected their ingress and egress to their property, such that they now have to practically jump from the elevated road to gain access to their lot and scale the same elevation in order to get out. It is settled that unless it is a nuisance per se, it may not be summarily abated. In the present case, Wong availed of the remedy of judicial abatement and damages against Rana, claiming that both the elevated and cemented portion are nuisances. With respect to the elevated and cemented portion, the court finds that the same is not a nuisance per se. By its nature, it is not injurious to the health or comfort of the community. It was built primarily to facilitate the ingress and egress of Rana from their house, which was admittedly located on a higher elevation than the road and the adjoining Uy and Wong properties. Since the portion is not a nuisance per se, but actually a nuisance per accidents, it cannot be summarily abated. Next is the case of Aquino versus Municipality of Malay Aklan. So in this case, petitioner is the president and CEO of the Boracay West School. He applied first for a zoning clearance with the LGU of Malay. Now, while the company was already operating a resort in the area, the application, he also applied for the issuance of a building permit for the construction of a 3-story hotel over a parcel of land. Now, the municipal zoning administrator denied the petitioner's application on the ground that it is the proposed construction site was within the no-build zone. So the mayor ordered the closure and demolition of Boracay West Cove Hotel. On the other hand, the petitioner argued that judicial proceedings should first be conducted before the mayor could order the demolition of the company's establishment. Okay. The Supreme Court said that in establishing a no-build zone through local legislation, the LGU effectively made a determination that constructions therein without first securing exemptions from the local council qualify as nuisances for they pose a threat to public safety. No-build zones are intended for the protection of the public because the stability of the ground's foundation is adversely affected by the nearby body of water. The ever-present threat of high-rising storm surges also justifies the ban on permanent constructions near the shoreline. We agree with the petitioner that the property involved cannot be classified as a nuisance per se, but not for the reason that he offers. Property valuation is not the litmus test for such determination. More controlling is the property's nature and conditions, which should be evaluated to see if it qualifies as a nuisance defined under the law. So in this case, the hotel in itself cannot be considered as a nuisance per se, since this type is generally defined as an act, occupation, or structure which is a nuisance at all times and under any circumstances. Here it is merely the hotel's particular incident, its location, and not its inherent qualities that rendered it a nuisance. Had it not been constructed in the no-build zone, Boracay West Code could have secured the necessary permits without issue. As such, petitioner is correct that the hotel is not a nuisance per se, but it is still a nuisance per accident. However, despite the hotel's classification as a nuisance per accidents, we still find that the LGU may nevertheless properly order the hotel's demolition under the police power of the state. Next case is Perez versus Madrona. So in this case, Madrona is the registered owner of a residential property. Now, the respondents built a concrete fence and a steel gate. Now, Madrona received a letter from the chief of the Marikina Demolition Office demanding the removal of the structure because it allegedly occupied the sidewalk, a portion of the sidewalk. Now, the petitioner found the respondent's fence to have encroached on the sidewalk. However, Madrona contended that unless a thing is a nuisance per se, it may not be abated summarily without judicial intervention. Respondent's fence is not a nuisance per se. By its nature, it is not injurious to the health, comfort of the community. It was built primarily to secure the property and to prevent intruders from entering it. The sidewalk, a petitioner believes that respondent's fence indeed encroaches on the sidewalk. It may be proven in a hearing conducted for that purpose, not being a nuisance per se, but at most a nuisance per accidents. If summary abatement without judicial intervention is unwarranted. Okay. We now move to the last case, Aleta versus Sofitel. So in this case, Alentahan went to Sofitel to check in. Okay, they were accompanied by their two children who were both aged 5 and 3 years old respectively. Okay, Marilyn brought Carlos and Mario to the hotel's kiddie pool. Now, as Mario was stepping into the pool near the lifeguard station, he suddenly slipped, which resulted to his head hitting the rough edge of the pool. He sustained injuries which caused his head to bleed. Carlos, on the other hand, mounted the kiddie pool slide and bumped his head. He sustained a contusion which likewise caused his head to bleed. Now, Carlos filed a complaint for damages against Sofitel before the METC. The petitioner cited and argued that respondent of Sofitel should be held liable for the injuries sustained by his children. He maintains that the presence of a slide within the pool's premises made it an attractive nuisance which should have prompted respondent to place more safeguard. He stresses that while warning signs were posted regarding the use of the pool, the same were placed in an inconspicuous place which could not have ensured the safety of the guests. Okay, so in the case of Aleta versus Sofitel, the Supreme Court discussed what is meant by attractive nuisance. One who maintains dangerous instrumentalities or appliances of a character likely to attract children in play and fails to exercise ordinary care to prevent children from playing therewith can be held liable for it. except with respect to swimming pool, water tank, ponds. Okay, the Supreme Court said that the doctrine on attractive nuisance is not applicable to bodies of water, artificial as well as natural, in the absence of some unusual condition or artificial feature other than the mere water and its locations. By this reason, in this case, the records show that there were 2 slides installed with slopes ending at the kiddie pool, taking Hidalgo into consideration. Although the swimming pool alone may not be considered as an attractive nuisance, the kiddie pool's close proximity to the slides formed an unusual condition or artificial feature intended to attract children. The installation of the slides with slopes ending over the swimming pool's waters makes it an attractive nuisance. By this reason, respondent was duty bound to undertake protective measures to ensure the children's safety. It was respondent's responsibility to guarantee that appropriate safeguards were in place within the attractive nuisance in order to protect children against the injury. So that is all for nuisance. Thank you for listening.